those who are going to share around our priorities for supplemental bargaining and just around basic general. You are changing how we operate, and so you should give yourself.
So again, Commissioner Ricker is going to be here momentarily to share a few thoughts before she gets called away. We knew that was a possibility. Busy job, but that's why we have folks here reporting us so that every story that we share today can be preserved and then shared with the Commissioner in its entirety. And we are so grateful for all the people who are going to be speaking today. We know that there are many other folks here who have additional stories that we want to bring out over the next few weeks as we work on supplemental bargaining to really try to get some motion going on the areas we've identified here based on what we have heard from MAPE members over the course of the last weeks and months. So we are very excited for that. Just to go over the proposals in brief before the Commissioner gets here, we just shared them with her in C23, so she has seen them. We are advocating for the creation of a 1 MDE council modeled on the governor's 1 Minnesota council with the goal of making sure that MDE is working in the direction of equity, that we are supporting diversity across many different identities at every level of our organization, so that we can be representative of the students of the state of Minnesota. We are also pushing for greater consistency in management practices across the agency. So no matter which division you're in, when it comes to flex work, telework, there's consistency and there's a common baseline. So no matter which division you're in, no matter who your supervisor is, when it comes to performance management, we're moving in the direction of coaching and having a growth mindset for ourselves rather than relying on older school, more punitive and shaming feeling methods of performance management. And so that we can build together, collaboratively, a system of professional development that can help each of us get better at the jobs that we do to better serve the students of the state of Minnesota. So those 4 areas are areas that we are working for together. And so again, we just shared our language around that with the Commissioner. We'll be continuing to talk with her and with her designees today and tomorrow and over the next few weeks as we move in the direction of a resolution here.
And just want to encourage folks to keep participating, keep pushing on us to be more inclusive and to think more broadly and to really create something that is reflective of what everyone who works here needs, not just this area or that area or this division against that division. It really is about all MDE, period. We want to probably move forward.
I think so.
With our initial study. Please say hello and how much I am looking forward to our supplemental bargaining, and then and thanking you, one more opportunity to just be able to say thank you so much for welcoming me, the work you have done to introduce your work to me, to see what you do on behalf of the students and families in Minnesota's public schools. I am humbled to work alongside you and to represent this work as well as I represent the work that we need to do on behalf of all of our students in the state of Minnesota. So thanks for being here.
The struggling students, those who, especially those who belong in historically oppressed racial categories, and also to help move the needle on closing the achievement gap. We need to make sure that there are people in their lives that look like them, that they can look up to, and that have lived the similar experiences as the students, and also to someone who get to those people who get to make decisions that will affect their daily lives, including their educational experiences. The student demographic in Minnesota is changing, and to meet that challenge, there is a bill being introduced in the legislature right now to increase the diversity of the teaching workforce. And as the state's education agency, I believe MDE needs to do the same. And with respect to racial equity, we would like to see MDE push for every level of the agency to be representative of the state students. And this is why we're proposing to create a 1 MDE council, which will bring a stronger voice for all MAPE represented employees. It will also reassure staff of color and American Indian staff that there is a structure in place working toward more equitable practices around hiring, classification, retention, and career development. We're not asking for special or preferential treatments and or anything that's undeserved. All we are asking is a fair chance and equitable representation, so different voices and perspectives can be heard at the table. And we need to do that throughout all positions within the agency at all levels, not just the rank and file, but in leadership positions as well. So if you agree with this, please come join us and lend your voice, power, and energy. And so together we can change the face of MDE and in the process better serve Minnesota students, families, and educators.
We are on land owned by the indigenous tribes of Minnesota, Ojibwe and Dakota people. And for us to keep that in mind, I also want to tell you that I come to this work as an ally. I come to this work as a white woman with Mexican and Norwegian heritage, as the spouse of an immigrant, and as the mother of a Latino son. I think that the fact that we frame this conversation from the lens of racial equity first is essential. And I also want to say that that does not mean that we will not do this mindfully of students who are on the end of other achievement gaps. That as we look to increase staff representation of staff with disabilities, both visible and invisible, that means that we will be more mindful of our students with disabilities. That means that as we try to increase staff who are second language speakers, that means that we will also be mindful of our staff who are English language, or our students who are English language learners. And as we try to add staff who have experienced a low socioeconomic background, that means that we will be mindful of our students who are on free and reduced price lunch. I also want to acknowledge that many, as we increase one kind of diversity, we will increase another kind of diversity. Because of intersectionality, that does not mean that if we hire staff with a disability, that staff will necessarily be white. There are lots of people of color who are language learners. There are lots of people of color who fit into all those groups. So we're looking to increase diversity across the board to be more representative of our student body.
I work in the Office of Equity and Opportunity, specifically with the Achievement Integration Program. And I started working here at MDE 4 years ago. At that time, one person in our division was able to flex their time or telework from home. That person retired about a year after I started, and we didn't really hear anything else about teleworking. So I had a young millennial come and join our division about 2 years ago, and that was her fight. She really wanted to be able to telework. And it took her quite a long time to be able to do that. And unfortunately, she did it for a few weeks and left us. So I took on the charge and really wanted to telework from home. So 4 years later, after a leadership change in my division, I'm able to telework from home on Fridays. I will tell you that I get a lot more done because I'm not interrupted. But the greatest feeling in the world was having someone tell me you're a professional and I trust you to get the work done, whether you're here or whether you're at home. And it's nice to stay in your jammies. And so, I know there's no consistency across divisions. I found out from a lot of my peers that they've been teleworking for quite a long time and I wasn't. So I definitely see this as an equity issue. And I'm happy to speak about it to all of you, so we need to get this done for everybody.
And I am working over in school support. I mainly focus on QComp and teacher development and evaluation. Also, we are delving into equitable workforce conversation for educators as well. So it kind of ties in right with where we are right here today. I wanted to start with a quote. I am a quotes person for those of you who don't know me. And the quote is, "What coaching does is to expand the space of infinite possibilities that someone is." And that's from Raphael, I'm going to mess up his last name, Echevarria. And he's all about ontological coaching, which is taking the person and helping them become the fullest person they can be in their position, in their profession, whatever, in their classroom. And so when you think about that in terms of making or building consistent management practices across the agency, I've been here for a little over a year now, and I'm lucky to be in a division where we get feedback all the time, where we have open door between ourselves and our supervisors, where we have a designated process for appraisal every year, and even when you're first coming on board in that 6 months process. I know that is not consistent across the agency, and what we're hoping is that we can move those policies or procedures up to where we are in the workforce outside of the agency and make that consistent so that we know where we're going, so that there's good communication, so that there's a vision and a plan for each person who works across the agency with an eye on being able to be developed and have opportunities for growth and further work opportunities. So that's where we are today, and very important. It also opens the field for us for more equitable practices that can be used.
Because I shared a story with some colleagues and they wanted me to speak to that here. Number one, I think we want professional development that is executed consistently across the division or across the entire agency, and it should not matter who you know or who your supervisor is as far as what opportunities are available to you and what you can choose to pursue. So I think that's one thing that we're asking for. I'm now going to sort of tell the story part of my experience and why I think it's important to have a systemic framework and approach to high quality professional development. Without getting too specific, before I give the example, let me give the positive. A, there are divisions and leaders in the organization that are creating opportunities for us, and I think that's to be commended. I think they are few and far between, and so my example is I saw this opportunity and I snatched it because I'm aware that I can continue to grow. I also have the experience of having worked for school districts and for other agencies and nonprofits, and I have experienced high quality professional development. This session, I think, fell far short. And I found myself sitting in the session wondering whether I should open up the forum and comment about the inappropriateness of the presenter and the content, or whether I should stay silent. I chose to stay silent because I think there are other forums to do that, and I kept thinking to myself about my colleagues in that room and how unfair it was to them for the 40 plus people in the room who were dedicating an hour of their time to this content to not have the professional development delivered, I think, in a high quality way by someone who understands the context of the work that we do, and especially someone who doesn't have an eye on equity. And I left that meeting thinking we fell far short of the mark, and my hope is that if we have more cross-agency integration as approached when we approach professional development, that can lead to higher quality